In Hindu tradition, a Jyotirlinga is not a standard temple. It marks a physical location where Lord Shiva is said to have manifested as an infinite, piercing column of divine light. Today, there are exactly 12 of these supreme shrines scattered across 8 different states in India. The stakes for visiting them are incredibly high. Ancient texts state that completing a pilgrimage to all 12 sites cleanses a lifetime of karmic debt and grants ultimate spiritual liberation. But while the spiritual reward is immense, the geographical reality of actually reaching all 12 locations creates immediate, paralyzing anxiety for anyone trying to plan the trip. The confusion usually starts with the Dwadash Jyotirlinga Stotram. This is the ancient scripture that names the 12 temples and lists them in a highly specific traditional sequence. This map shows what happens if you follow that text literally. You start at Somnath in the west, jump way down south to Mallikarjuna, bounce back up to Mahakaleshwar in the center, and keep crisscrossing. You are looking at thousands of miles of erratic travel. Attempting this exact route requires a massive budget and a seemingly endless string of conflicting flight paths and long train rides. This forces a hard choice. Do you have to follow this ancient order to earn the spiritual merit, or is it acceptable to visit the shrines out of sequence? Getting a clear answer on this is essential. Trying to force modern travel into a rigid, ancient itinerary turns a sacred quest into a logistical nightmare. If you do insist on following the absolute traditional sequence, there is zero debate about where you have to begin: Somnath in Gujarat. As the definitive first shrine, Somnath is a historical emblem of creation and resilience, standing powerfully against the vast Arabian Sea. The primary benefit of choosing this strict path is obvious. You are perfectly aligned with Vedic text and thousands of years of unbroken tradition, but the trade-off is brutal. Bouncing from West India down to the south and then trekking all the way up to the Himalayas requires a huge budget and an exhausting month-long marathon of travel. This scriptural approach honors the mythology flawlessly, but it completely ignores the physical and financial limitations of modern devotees. This map illustrates the modern alternative, grouping the 12 temples into geographic clusters. This breaks a grueling 30-day marathon into manageable regional trips, like this Maharashtra driving loop, easily completed over a few years. If you are feeling spiritual guilt about doing this, you can let it go. Breaking the scriptural sequence is completely acceptable. There is no officially mandated travel order in Hinduism that penalizes you for efficient logistics. Geographical clustering democratizes the entire pilgrimage. It makes the Yatra possible for normal families to complete without having to quit their jobs or empty their savings accounts. However, even when you cluster by region, you still have to let extreme geography dictate your schedule, especially when you head north. Kedarnath is the most physically demanding, high-altitude Jyotirlinga on the list. The severe weather strictly limits your travel window to the months between May and November. Down in central India, specific temple rituals can also dictate your itinerary, with Mahakaleshwar being the prime example. Attending the famous early morning Bhasma Arti there requires you to anchor your entire regional trip around very specific timing and advance ticket bookings. A successful journey requires adapting your strategy for extreme weather windows and rigid ritual schedules. That proves logistics matter just as much as faith. Ultimately, all 12 Jyotirlingas offer the exact same spiritual power, whether seeking liberation along the crowded steps at Kashi Vishwanath or at a closer shrine. This flowchart shows how to pick your starting point. Follow tradition and start at Somnath, or optimize by starting in your closest home region. For the optimizer, this timeline divides the temples into 4 spaced-out regional trips. The right sequence simply prevents burnout. We recommend starting with the cluster closest to your home to build confidence and momentum. Save the extreme destinations like Kedarnath for a dedicated, well-planned expedition later on. True devotion is measured by the state of peace in your mind when you finally arrive at the shrine, not by how much chaotic, zigzagging travel you endured to get there.